Hello everyone. Today we are going to explain about Sarah Orne Jewett, local colorist works and women during the Civil War. Next. Number 1, please explain how Sarah Orne Jewett is and her connection with the local color literature. Next. Sarah Orne Jewett was one of the prominent writers in American local color literature who was born on September 3rd, 1849 in the village of South Berwick, Maine, where she lived her entire life. Her father was a physician, and since a young age, she used to accompany him on visiting the fishermen and farmers of her native Maine. Because of that, she endured the love of their way of life, the sights and sounds of her surroundings. Jewett began to write since she was a child and tell stories of her village in Maine. Her first story, Jenny the Shipwrecked Buttons, was published in The Flag of Our Union and the Riverside magazine for young people in 1868. The Country of the Pointed Firs is her masterpiece, which published in 1896. It is a portrayal of the isolation and loneliness of a seaport town and the unique humor of its people. Jewett ended her writing career in 1902 because of an unfortunate series of strokes, and then she died in 1909. Next. Jewett and the local color literature. So the connection between Jewett and the local color literature is how the portrayal of Jewett hometown in South Berwick, Maine. Jewett is best known for her short stories about provincial life in New England during the late 19th century. She is considered an important contributor to the development of the local color movement. She emphasizes setting rather than action, and she offers detailed descriptions of the natural environment and the mostly female characters that populate the small town in which the stories take place. Jewett wrote about this dying world and the isolated or the elderly who find deep meanings in local customs and private experiences. In the state of Maine, the end of the importance of clipper ships had led to the abandonment of shipyards and wharves. Villages much like South Berwick were almost deserted by the men and by the young of both sexes, living as inhabitants, mostly older women. She wrote realistically but gently, creating the best fictional narratives to come out of New England during a period when regional writing flourished there. Next.
Number 2, please identify some elements of local color literature that are present within the story Looking Back on Girlhood by Sarah Orne Jewett. So the story basically tells about the nostalgia of the author in her hometown's experience, which is in the country town of Berwick in the state of Maine, New England. There are some local colorism portrayed through the story. Now, as the author said herself that her home was delightful, thus, first of all, the things that would be discussed is Berwick's views and surrounding. If you can see here, Berwick is not necessarily a coastal town, but it is very close to the sea that Berwick has many ponds, river, brook, and lake that is connected to the sea. For example, this is the Murdoch Lake, and this is the Great Work Rivers. Next is, in the story, it is also mentioned that there is a great salmon fishery, which is famous among the Indians. One of them is the Salmon River Falls, which is a place that the Native American there, the Abenaki, used to catch salmon. Next, the story also describes how the rivers are bordered on its seaward course by high-wooded dark pines. Now, 89% land in Maine is covered with pine, that it is now known as the Pine State. However, later in the story, it is said that people started chopping down the pine woods for their business, that there is only a few of them left. The next one is that the New England is said to be one of the oldest settlements, that there are many English and Indian relics. One of them are old farms and colonial houses. The soil in the north isn't as good as the one in the south, that farms are more often used to grow cattle rather than crops. These houses and farms are where the families have lived for 6 to 7 generations. The business that grows in the north are either farming or fishing. That is why there are many fishermen in the town.
And the next one would be the main barter system, which is the system or tradition left by the Native Americans themselves. The barter system has been in Maine as early as the first English settlement, and this system is the legacy of the Native Americans themselves. The white people saw that the barter systems were beneficial for them. For example, such as said before, that the crops in the north are not as good as the ones in the south. In consequences, people from the north exchange their meat and pine woods for household necessities such as sugar, coffee, tea, cotton candy, and basically the things that the north cannot afford. Next. Number 3. Please elaborate the change in roles and significant contributions of women during the Civil War. Next. So before the Civil War, women's role is pretty much just normal housewives. They cook, clean, and do everything related to house jobs. This role changed when the Civil War outbreak happened. Many women can stand doing nothing, so they volunteered to help in the war effort. Some of the roles women took during the Civil War included taking men's role in their daily life, nurse, cook, fundraisers, frontline soldiers, and spy masters. Next.
Women's contribution during Civil War. The first one is they contribute for medical supplies and nurses. With many men being off to war, it is up to the women to manage their homes and raise money by taking on men's jobs, like in factories or government position, and raise funds to help pay for war and medical supplies. The second one, they raise money to help others. During the Civil War, a lot of kids are left by their father because their father have to fight, and a lot of these kids lost their father and become orphans, either being captured as prisoner of war or being killed in the battlefield. They also like to help the disabled soldiers. These women also like to make bazaars and fairs to entertain the kids and the soldiers. The third one, they provide the soldiers with food and uniform. They also form a sanitary group. The woman will cook and collect food that are not been eaten yet and gave it to the soldier who are starving. For example, they plant some fruits and vegetables, and some of the women bake foods. They also sewed uniforms, provided blankets, mend shoes, washed clothes, and cooked for the soldier without a cost. They also volunteered for the sanitary group, which is a group that the job is to clean barracks for the soldiers and to promote a healthy sanitation around the camp.
And the last one would be they contributed in the front lines. Of course, there are women who also want to contribute in the front lines. Therefore, hundreds disguised as men so they can join the battlefield. At the time, women are not allowed to join the battlefield, so women who are found in the battlefield will be sent home with the risk of imprisonment. And not only that, they also became spy masters because information on the enemy is key in this war. Therefore, there are lots of women who lived or worked on one side, but secretly supporting the other side. That's all for our explanation. Thank you for listening.